being recorded.
Good afternoon, and I would like to welcome you to our third in our series of this month's presentations by Redeemer Lutheran School in Redwood, California. Today, again, we are being sponsored by the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod School of Ministry in cooperation with Concordia University, Wisconsin's Office of Continuing and Distance Education. We are again conducting a series of monthly National Lutheran School Accreditation Best Practice webinars. These webinars are great opportunities for staff development. Today's webinar, which is being presented by Redeemer Lutheran School, Redwood City, California, is going to focus on how to build a community of one. This is the third in their presentations of best practices for this month, and these are unique opportunities to have transformed practices for your schools. These are also excellent opportunities for you to have professional development among your staff. All of these best practice webinars are recorded and will be posted later onto the Lutheran portal, so you may visit them at any time and use those for staff development. So today we are welcoming Mike Massini. He will be leading our webinar today. Before we begin, let us begin with a word of prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we ask that you would be with the presenters today for their webinar. We ask that you would give them the ability to communicate clearly the blessings that they have experienced at their schools. Lord, in this time of Lent, we thank you for the gift that you have given to us of your Son. We ask that you be with us as we minister to all the families in our school and in our community. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen.
We welcome Mike.
Hello, Trip. Thank you so much, everybody. It's great to be able to sit down, per se, and talk with all of you about some great things that we've been blessed with here at Redeemer. Trip, again, thank you for the nice intro. And Todd, thank you so much for your technical support. And I know Terry's sitting out there. Terry, thank you for your leadership and what you do with our schools throughout our nation. I'm so excited to be a part of this. This has been a very strange thing to sit in front of a computer and a phone. Normally I get the opportunity to talk about these things as we're sitting in with groups and whether we're doing a presentation live. So I'll do the best to continue to keep it energized and have some fun with everybody, but want to welcome all of you from sunny California. So I think that gives a little bit. Hopefully all of you have a little sun, what's happening where you're at. One of the things we talked about as the intro comes out about creating a community of one, but really what we've talked about so often is how do we create a culture here at Redeemer that is infectious, that's contagious, that's energetic, that continues to provide an enriched enthusiasm on our campus. And I think we were so honored to be fortunate enough to be selected in the exemplary schools. But yet it's a whole team atmosphere. So today what you're going to hear a lot about is what I've been able to hopefully do with the incredible blessings of God, but on top of it, an amazing team and staff. So one of the things you find out about Redeemer, we definitely have is a place to laugh. We do it quite often in everything. We expect it from our parents, our kids, our staff. Our senior pastor, Pastor Hal Drager, loves to laugh. So it is a contagious kind of culture, and it's all about the attitude, and you'll hear me talk a little bit about this as we go on. At any time, if you have a question or something, feel free to type that in there, and I'll scan and hopefully be able to answer something for you. Okay, the world of technology. Here we go. Some fun little things. Always like to get a little giggle going. Wise men, huh? That would probably be me stepping on a rake. That would work out pretty well.
Okay, I guess I got to do it this way.
Gives you a little idea. I always add some cartoon things. I always think they're quite enjoyable to get everybody in the right frame of mind. We have a young man, Jacob, here at school. He didn't think that was very, my 8th grader kind of looked at me and goes, "That's not very funny, Mr. M." I go, "Oh, Jacob, it works great." I'm sure I've heard a lot of our students say this to their parents, right? Isn't in the eyes of God everything great? And as Charlie Chaplin once said, you see, a day without laughter is a day wasted. Here's a great one that I don't want to offend anybody. It was pretty funny. We talked a lot about being good educators and being good spellers, and so I'm going to let Todd fire this on for everybody, a little recording.
What's your emergency?
Yeah, my wife got attacked by a warthog real bad, and I need someone to come up with an ambulance and pick her up. Okay, sir. Can you give me your address? Yeah, we're at 1825 Eucalyptus Drive. Okay, could you spell that for me, sir? I'm going to drag her on over to Oak Street, and you can pick her up there.
It kind of goes to show you, I guess, why being a good speller is important. We've had a good laugh, and as Todd and I were talking earlier, I don't know why the 911 person didn't help him, so there's a little bit of a concern there. As we talk about what we do, the wonderful world of technology, as we're sitting on computer, here's going. Very, very true in that. Here's another little fun video that I'm going to put for you before I get into the nuts and bolts. This is called Trunk Monkey, and it's a little thing about you dads that have daughters. So all of the people out there that have daughters, this is what it's like on a date.
Here we are.
I still can't believe my dad let us even touch his new car. I think it came with the car. Wait!
The Trunk Monkey Chaperone version. An innovative idea you'll only find at Suburban Auto Group.
So, I figured we had hunters and everything else, but no means does it mean to say anything towards violence or anything, but I thought it was pretty funny as we look. So here's my great team. Very, very blessed to have an incredible group of staff and teachers and aides and everybody else around. One of the great statements that I once heard from Andrew Carnegie was the following: as you can see, teamwork is the ability to work together toward a common vision, the ability to direct individual accomplishment towards organizational objectives. It is the fuel that allows common people to attain uncommon results. Athletics has been a big part of my life, and I think as we go through this, you'll see that when we have a team of people that believes in the same common goal, when they're enthusiastic, when they're energetic, it is amazing what can be accomplished. You'll see I have some quotes in later on. Here's one of the examples that's been very important. You all may, hopefully we have people that are old enough to remember the original Dream Team. And in that, you'll see who it was. The team was assembled by Chuck Daly, one of the great basketball coaches of all time with the Detroit Pistons. It had, you can see right there, and I don't know if my cursor's working, you have Magic Johnson, you have Patrick Ewing, you have Michael Jordan, you have Charles Barkley, and then Karl Malone. You have the original 5 of the Dream Team. And what was incredible about this, all 5 of these guys are now Hall of Fame basketball players, which is really amazing. Chuck Daly put together this group, and it reminds me of kind of what we do each and every day. This team won by an average of 44 points a game. They were amazing. They accomplished things beyond anybody's wildest imagination. As it said, most of them in the Hall of Fame. Karl Malone will be the last one inducted if it hasn't for him. But here was the greatest thing for me. What they were able to do was put away their personal rivalries and egos to accomplish a single team goal, and that was to win a gold medal. That was to be the best they can be, and it didn't matter who got the credit. I think that's one of the great statements that I had once heard from John Wooden. You'll see his pyramid of success in here, is that it's amazing what can be accomplished if no one cares who gets the credit. And John Wooden said that, and it's so true. When we work together as a team, it is amazing. And part of this whole presentation is, how do you put together that team? How do you find them? We've been around here, and I know for the Green Bay Packer fans, that name sitting up there isn't probably the name they love to see, but it has changed. Bill Walsh being the person, the mastermind behind the 49ers' success out here in San Francisco, was called the genius. And I don't think it was because of the X's and O's of what he did. I think it was because of how he assembled a group of people together, whether it be players, but more importantly, a team of coaches, or else we could say teachers, a team, a staff that he knew at some point they all had to take personal responsibility in. And when you look at the resume of who worked under him, was a part of his mentoring, you'll notice all these names pretty good. Tony Dungy, championship with the Colts. Lovie Smith took the Bears to a Super Bowl. Mike Holmgren, obviously very popular, a coach, ended up winning a Super Bowl with the Packers. Mike McCarthy, winning a Super Bowl with the Packers. Mike Shanahan, again with the Broncos. Mike Tomlin with the Steelers. John Gruden with the Buccaneers. He had a way of making sure that his team players with him, his coaches, his teachers, everybody around him knew that their input was valuable, that they were very important. He hired with specific understandings. One of the models we take here, everybody sees that picture come up. I think we all know what that picture represents. It represents Disney. It represents Walt Disney. Over the last few years, I've learned a lot of understanding the Disney style of hiring, the Disney style of attitude, and it's been something that we've talked about here. I know that you have Walt Disney World close in Florida for some of the people in the Midwest and then East, and then we have Disneyland out here. The happiest place on earth, I sat there, my wife and I went down to Disneyland, and they said it was Disneyland. I'd like to say that the second happiest place on earth is RLS, and it's something that for us, it's been the mantra. It's been our idea of who we are each and every day. And this is not to say that all of you aren't doing this, you're not attempting this, you're not working at it, but I find sometimes it's easy to get away from our focus on what we're trying to do because we're so focused on academics and everything else that we forget about how do we create this attitude and atmosphere that when people step on our campus, there is this feeling of, gosh, we want to stay and we want to be back. So as we talked about, Walt Disney was an amazing man, and I think what made him amazing was his sense of dreaming, his sense of vision, and his sense of where he needed to be. And, one of the things was he always said Disney wasn't about him. It was about the Imagineers, the people that could dream with him, the people that could get on board and think outside the box and do that. And obviously, as it says in there, it's people that make a dream a reality. So as we continue, what we realize is, I love this statement. We don't put people in Disney. We put Disney in people. Cast members, that's the people that work for them. That's what they call them, are instructed to be aggressively friendly. When I first heard that statement, I didn't really understand it until you get to experience it. When you are on those parks and those areas, you realize that everything is done incredibly possible, that even if somebody's having a bad day, you don't know it. So I really enjoy that statement. We use that here, aggressively friendly. And then this is the hard part. We ask everybody to get on the same bus together, and it's really not a negotiable. We expect that when you step on campus at Redeemer that you buy into the culture, that you are a part of the culture, that you're excited with it. And if you're not, that's okay. Then obviously you got to find somewhere else. And that's always hard, and that's why part of what we do is talking about our mantra. This is just giving you a quick little snapshot of where Redeemer was in 2003. Just before I became principal, we had Gary Behrens was our first principal that we had had for 44 years and did an amazing job in ministering to this school since 1957. That's when Redeemer started. And so up to 2003, we were like a roller coaster, like I'm sure all of you have experienced with enrollment and everything else. But one of the things we saw was we had an enrollment that had gone up to 179, and in 3 years we dropped to 109. This was just a scenario that was taking place. Gary had retired. We had an interim principal slide in. We had the 9/11 tragedy that took place. We had a very big .com, the Silicon Valley crush where people were losing jobs, moving out of the Bay Area, the whole area. So we saw a pretty big drop, and I see when you see that number, you'll notice that. We had our financials were in the red. I know people realize that. One of the ugly parts of administration is dealing with budgets, but unfortunately, we were in the red continuously. We realized that there was a lot of discontentment among staff and families because things just weren't what Disney would be, what a lot of things would be. So we were watching these things. Here was the big one, and this, again, was salaries, cost of living. We had, from 1996 to 2003, 17 teachers leave RLS for a majority of different reasons. So when I became principal, my goal was, when you get put into a chair the very first time, there's not a whole lot of manuals and things that you can do. Well, as I said, athletics has been a big part of my life, so having the opportunity to have been a head coach in a high school level, I said, you know, we're going to turn this into how do you create a great sports program? How did these people before that I showed you turn programs around that weren't really good? Well, what you got to do is you got to hire people that make it great with you. And that was part of what I believed in. Why build a great team and change the culture of our school? A lot of people would say that. Well, if you build a great team, a great business, obviously more people want to come. It makes your place more profitable. But that wasn't the only thing. I wanted our school to be attractive. I wanted people in the community that when they heard the name Redeemer, that it represented something. I wanted to serve our customers better. And customers meaning the people that, as I like to use, you know, the sheep that were in the pen. I love the fact that as a ministry we go out and look for that lost sheep. But the ones that are in the pen are truly, truly the ones that we weren't servicing well enough. And then obviously everybody, and I'm sure when you read that final one, that is each one of our goals. That's what we do. I just don't like to always say the goal. I want it to be a reality. I want it to be a vision. I want it to be something that we continue to work towards. I always tease the staff. We put this up. I go, yeah, I hope that, I know we all know the pay is not the world's greatest because we got a better boss that we work for, but everything else. So we laugh a lot of times when we see that up on a wall. One of the problems I needed to find out all the information. Why were we losing staff? Why weren't people able to hang on? Why were parents going? Well, most of it was the team. You got to have a great coaching staff in order to build a great program. And competition, the dollars in our public schools were astronomical, and what we were able to pay our teachers was really a struggle. So that became a goal set for me. Burnout, oh my goodness, I've always giggled and said once we become Lutheran educators, the responsibilities that we have are just understood. It's really not. I said if you ever want to see a teacher's job description or a principal's, it just says all other responsibilities needed. It's pretty much straight. We do so much, and so that was happening. Dissension. There was a lot of dissension amongst the teachers. You know, a lot of people that weren't all on the same page. They were pointing fingers, a little triangulation, getting others involved, and that doesn't help. Lack of what they felt was support from across-the-board administration and things that we were battling with during these times. And it was great because the interim principal we had was a wonderful man, is a great guy, dear friend of mine, but just it was hard. You know, you fill in for a legend, and it's really difficult at that time. Plus, you know, micromanaging, you know, having the accountability and ownership, allowing teachers to have that is such a huge, huge thing. So it became kind of the whole idea and understanding as to, you know, what do we do and how do we do it. We talked about attitude being everything. And so often, you know, I always told them, careful what you say. Don't always say what you're thinking. Remember to use your words right. So here's a great little recording that I hope that my teachers and my admin, Gail, who's amazing, doesn't really want to say, but some of you may laugh.
Hello, you've reached the automated answering service of your school. In order to assist you in connecting to the right staff member, please listen to all options before making your selection. To lie about why your child is absent, press 1. To make excuses for why your child did not do his homework, press 2. To complain about what we do, press 3. To cuss out staff members, press 4. To ask why you didn't get needed information that was already enclosed in your newsletter and several bulletins mailed to you, press 5. If you want us to raise your child, press 6. If you want to reach out and touch, slap, or hit someone, press 7. To request another teacher for the 3rd time this year, press 8. To complain about bus transportation, press 9. To complain about school lunches, press 0. If you realize this is the real world and your child must be accountable for his or her own behavior, classwork, homework, and it's not the teacher's fault for your child or children's lack of effort, thank you and have a nice day.
I think so often each one of us has that same thought. I know today is Tuesday, and yet, as I mentioned to Todd when I first called in, I think it's Monday Groundhog Day style, that it just keeps repeating. So it's really important how we present ourselves to our community, to our stakeholders, to the people that we're working with day in and day out. And it's so hard some days because we're having those kind of days where we've just pretty much been fed up with everything. And even we might think, hey, we're in a Christian environment and there's forgiveness and there's understanding. You know, our customers, our parents, sometimes that's not good enough. We need to be on our A game at all time. We need to be that one that's always out there positive, that when we're fed up, we just take it one more time. So that's been something that we've continued to talk about as we move on. How do you choose and what is the decision as far as the process that we go through in hiring? I've been very blessed with the leadership here at Redeemer where I put together a group of people when we're doing interviews. And you know what's great is that I have that final say, and I hope that the administrators that may be listening today or even teachers realize that if I'm going to work with this person 5, 6, 7 days a week, that it's got to be the people that I know can have the attitude and the experience that we're looking for. The senior pastor does sit on our groups, but it's really myself, my admin assistant, my vice principal Michelle, who presented last week. We sit there and kind of look at, do they buy into the culture that we have? Do you each have a philosophy? Do you have a mantra? Do you have something that you believe in, that you buy into? I think sometimes we all talk about it, but we don't grab something and say, this is what we're going to be, this is how I want to be known. I always say a philosophy is another name for having a brand. Went to some other presentations of what is your brand, and you can do a lot of research. It's amazing what you find out when you start asking the outside the brand of your school, and it's pretty great. Our mantra, our brand, what we like ourselves to be known in the community, and what I do, the saying that my staff will know, and I've said it quite often, we hire for attitude and we train for skill. I think that when you have someone who has the right attitude and has that enthusiasm and that energy and that belief of what we're doing, you can't get them to where you want them to be if they're not totally there in the skills that they possess. But it's really hard to change someone's attitude. We talk about that being hardwired. And so you got to find that person that just looks at that glass half full most of the time, that is always willing to look outside the box, that really gets up in the morning and loves what they do. And that's tough. There's no doubt. I stole that, again, from Disney, and it says, we do not put people into Redeemer School. We put Redeemer School into people. And that's our ministry. I think that's what we do. We want people to be able to walk off this campus and say, I don't know what it is. There is some weird feeling about that place that just, it's energy all the time. And so I think that's a very important thing in what you do. We talk about it with the staff of filling your piggy bank. And for those of you that may not have understood that, I always tell the teachers in our team, fill your piggy bank, guys. Do the things. Be aggressively friendly so that when something does go haywire, you have some money in the bank. There is that forgiveness. There is that understanding that we're not perfect. We make our errors. And then how do you get there? How did we get from where we were kind of maybe struggling a little bit to where we're at today? Is I believe you steal from the best. And if I use a sports analogy, I think when you look at some of the great players, athletic teams, coaches of all time, they went after people that were doing it right. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense for me to go look at a school that's not doing really well to take ideas from. If you happen to be out there and something's not going well, go find a school that's just tearing it up, that's doing great. Find out how are they doing it, what are they doing. You may not be able to take it exactly, but I promise you there are bits and pieces that you can steal. And I always say that in a great way because I think each one of us as administrators, teachers, directors, we've always taken something that we saw that was really good. As I said, we find championship advice. Then when we do that together, the great thing is we're going to make this happen. We're doing it. We're changing it next year. Boy, that's a recipe for disaster. We've got to begin that implement and change gradually, begin the process, because everything takes time as we're doing it. Surround yourself with experts. I know one of the things that was always difficult for me is I just understood that principals of Lutheran schools are supposed to do everything, period, end of story. That we're supposed to be the jack of all trades and the master of all trades. Well, I found out some way on my earlier years in a tough way that's not true. So what do? You surround yourself with people that are expert at that, thus having a vice principal like Michelle who is wicked in curriculum and unbelievable, and then just surrounding yourself with people who are excellent. That is a great way to continue to build what you're trying to do. be vulnerable. I think so often there's this understanding that we can't show that we've made a mistake, or we can't show that we're sad, or that we can't show these things. I think our team, our staff, and our parents love to see that we are vulnerable, that we make mistakes, that we are human, that, you know, and how we do that. And it's always very important. Share responsibilities. One of the greatest things that I've learned over the years is don't chuck somebody else under the bus. Let's do it together. If something goes down, let's take responsibility for it. Let's all be there together. And when something's tough, if you're not sure how to do it, it's okay. Delegate. Boy, that's a word that sometimes comes back to bite me, and I'm sure, hopefully some of you, is delegating can be a tough thing. But share the responsibilities. For me, it was trust my team's decision. A staff member will come up to me and say, you know, Mike, I'm looking at doing this. What's your thoughts? And I go back to my days of coaching when I had a great quarterback, and I'm going to go a little bit of sports terminology. We'd call a play out in offense, and I'd tell my quarterback, I'd say, you know what, Blake, make me look good. If you change the play out there, just make it look good, and we'd laugh. But really, as I told the staff, hey, make us look good. Do the right thing, and if it doesn't go right, then we learn from it. But I want them to make the decisions. I want them falling, and I want them getting up to see, you know, what went wrong or what went right. So we do that. Review game fills often. You'll see I put that in there. We do this quite a bit. We look at everything. We look at our mistakes we made at the end of the year. We call it our ward meetings, where we sit down and we go over, each one of us writes down 5 to 10 things that we weren't really proud of this past year, and we share them in front of our whole staff because we want accountability. We want people to help us to check in with us. So that's what I talk about game films. It's at our staff meetings every Wednesday. We're reviewing game films. We're seeing how well did we do. What did we mess up on? I always think when I was playing sports, going to game films was not about celebration. It was about looking at the things we didn't do well and how do we improve on them. Create a winning team. I think that the key thing for creating a winning team is all the things. Develop a successful culture. I can't state that more, that one of the blessings we had when Scott and Albert came out to evaluate us for exemplary status, one of the comments they shared that really kind of numbed us all was the fact that they said, you know, there's something on this campus that we truly can't put into words, and it's an environment, it's an energy. And that is what was really exciting and maybe confirming to all of us that we're doing what we were saying we were going out. So develop that culture that keeps people wanting to be there. I know I set the tone, so I have to remember that, whether I'm coaching the boys basketball team or whether I'm with my staff. If I'm in the tank, they're in the tank. If I'm negative, they're negative. So I've got to make sure that when I step on this campus in the morning that I'm doing everything possible to encourage them and continue to lift them up, as well as around the families and the kids. Locker room leaders is make sure that you've empowered your staff so that the staff can go out and continue to share the same stuff, that they're being as energetic as you, and they're talking to parents, because they really are your frontline people. We find a way to win. We don't accept loss very easily. When something doesn't go well, we figure out a way to make it a victory. So that's something that's always been. And then this was what I said earlier. We all take accountability for both victories and defeats. I think that that's what great teams do. We don't say, well, I did my side good, you didn't do yours well. We take success together, and we take oopses together. Here's where we were last year. Coming into this year, it hasn't changed a lot, but I had to share this with the staff to tell them how proud I was of them and where they have taken us. We have a healthier culture now. There's a lot of trust. There's a lot of empowerment. There's teamwork. There's involvement. There's everything. There's freedom to go for it. I love that more, that my staff feels excited to take risks and take challenges and be accountable and be proactive. So there's one of the ways. The enrollment is the highest in school history. And again, I say that, you know, I'm very blessed to have a team that continues to be out in the community, to be able to have our name out there where there is this understanding of who we are. This was the biggest, and I've heard this from our director of schools in the California, Nevada, Hawaii district, Joel Kirshen. Joel once said, good schools are telling you how great they are, and great schools are finding ways to get better. And his statement came in this way. He said, you know, so many people are worried about marketing. and they forget about marketing inside their own school. So really, there's not a lot of marketing that I do outside in newspapers and magazines. I'm going to put the money and everything else towards the parents I have, because the greatest marketing tool you're going to have, if you don't already know it, are your current families. Now, this year, it is so exciting that so many of our parents are staying in the last years. We're not having attrition in the ways that we did. And all of the new families that are coming in, whether it be a full kindergarten class, have all been referred by families here at Redeemer. So that tells me that the team is doing what they need to do. Our financials are in the black. Wow, that is always an exciting thing, that we're doing things in a way that are continuing for us to put money towards other ministries, to put money in towards other ideas at school, music programs, art programs, a kiln, all the neat things that we can do to increase and do the things in our academics. The staff talks more about how we can rather than really, can we? So there is this definite attitude that's happening, that's going on, that we're so excited. Our staff, here's what I'm just flattered, honored. I always giggle and tell Michelle I don't know why this is happening. The staff and the enthusiasm on campus seems to be contagious. It seems to be happening. The exemplary status honor was one that we'll kind of sit back and smile, but one of the great comments from my kindergarten teachers after we were given this amazing honor, I looked at him and said, okay, now what? And they go, for crying out loud, can't we celebrate for 2 days? I go, nope, now what? Because there's always that thing of getting in a comfort zone and being too excited. But it is a great honor, and we're going to continue to do our best to live up to all the successes that we've had. Here's one of the things. In the last 10 years, we've had 2 teachers move and 1 retire out of 13. That's a pretty neat thing for us, that we've had a continuity in team, and we've had a continuity in what we do, and it's proven that the staff is sticking around. So we're very excited about that. You know, you haven't seen a lot about it in here, and obviously Christ is number one in our life. There is no doubt that all of these blessings and all the glory and honor goes to Him. There's no doubt. And we talk to the staff often that not everybody's a called teacher, but guess what? Just because you may not have graduated from a synodical college or you didn't go through the colloquy yet does not mean that Christ did not call you to what you're doing. Because if you're working here, God tapped you on the heart and said, I need you there. So we know that our life here at Redeemer is one that together we're in devotions, we're in word, we sing a lot. Generosity, how we serve our community is so important. Being involved in ministry, my team is always involved. It's so neat, and it's a great role model for the families of our school. Modeling and worship, and just being happy, joy, grace, everything. He's just, as you know, we cannot thank Him enough. God is the biggest reason we are all here today and what's going on. One of the great things that Dr. Newton, our district president, I saw him present on, and it was so cool, was he said, are you winsome? And I looked and didn't really understand what that was at the time, some years back. And then he pulled out Colossians 4, 5 through 6. And you know what's so neat is I love what it says. Walk in wisdom toward outsiders, making the best use of time. Let your speech always be gracious, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how you ought to answer each person. You know, I think of that and think about how's our attitude and how are we modeling Jesus? Because if we're working here at a school that Christ is the number one focal point, how's our attitude? Are we modeling His speech? Are we modeling the things that make people who might not have that walk with Him go, hey, that's pretty cool. I think I want to find out more. And then he concluded with this, you must be winsome so you can win some. And as an athlete, that was a real catchy point. I went, oh, I like that. That was one I'll steal and we'll keep for a while. What keeps them coming back? This was, I'm a little embarrassed to put this up there, but by Vice Principal Michelle threw these at me. She had asked the staff, why do you keep coming back, guys? What is it? And then she said, Mike, you got to put this in there because this is how we feel about what's going on. And obviously you'll be able to see the comments, and it means a lot to me that this is how the team feels. So there's a few comments in here about why they want to continue to be a part of Redeemer and what we're doing here, rather than go chase the dollars outside in public schools or chase the lucrative business they could have outside. And One here, our staff has a special place in my heart, and we do. We do so much together, and I don't know if your staffs do. If you don't, I so encourage it. You know, getting together outside of school, having dinners monthly, doing fun things. Just continue doing that because it builds this sense of commitment. Taking inventory, that's always very important. This Michelle had sent this to me, and it made me feel like, okay, you know what? As long as we can laugh, as long as we can continue to do the things that we do that make this place a better place, I think I can hold staff and we can keep them here longer. Commitment, Colossians 3. I think I've seen this in a lot of webinars and a lot of presentations, but isn't it so true? Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as working for the Lord, not for man. I know my staff is doing that. I know that they've been called here. I know that their energy and enthusiasm is about what they get to do every day when they get to preach and share that good news. That is so cool because so often we can get in a real law-sided world and yet we like kids to know that there's a lot of gospel here, that there's a lot of grace, there's a lot of love, there's forgiveness, there are things that we can continue to strive for. So keep working hard at it. John Wooden, for those of you, I won't go into this. This is something I've used a lot for my own leadership sense. An amazing man at UCLA. Feel free to find this. It's called The Pyramid of Success. It's got some great lessons in leadership. You can give this to your team, your students, everybody. But, you know, he was a very spiritual man, and he believed, you know, Christ was the focal point of him. So if you haven't had a chance to look at this, please do. It's a great thing. This next video is one that we use a lot. It's about the Blue Angels. If you're familiar about their what they do and how they work, they talk about teamwork. So watch this, please.
Boss, Mo, updated Windsor 240 at 10. We own the airfield and airspace. You are clear for takeoff. Have a good one. Thanks, Mo. Perfect. Updated Windsor 240 at 10. We own the airfield and airspace. You are clear for takeoff. Have a good one. Thanks, Mo. Clear for That's okay. Looks like we may have had technical difficulties, but you guys can always look that up. Don't worry about it, Todd. It doesn't seem like it wants to play anymore. Maybe it still is. Is it playing over there? We've lost it. Okay, no problem. I'll talk a little bit about what that was as we go on. Love technical difficulties. When I was talking with Todd, I said I'll be the first one to keep throwing videos and all that kind of stuff in there, but that's okay. Here's what that video encompasses. If you ever get a chance, go look it up. It is through Blue Angels, and they talk about teamwork and how you do that together. And we love that video here because we talk about it. Who's our center point? God. There is absolutely no doubt whatsoever. Although I giggled and we put in parentheses Disney because we have to remember that Disney keeps us smiling and laughing. But God is the center point. These are all terms. Raising the bar. We do that almost to nauseum. It's amazing where every time we get to a spot where we feel comfortable, we got to push the bar a little bit more just to keep ourselves from being in that comfort zone. Team first. We leave the egos at the door. We have to. We each have our own specialties and what we're good at and what we're successful at. But when we start to talk a little bit more about those, that's not good. So we always tell everybody, hey guys, leave the egos at the door. Let's take responsibility, good or bad or indifferent. Let's just put this team of RLS first, and the rest goes. 24/7, we're on duty. You guys may understand that. Right at 3 o'clock does not mean it quits, and I don't even mean going home. I mean, when you go to the grocery store and you see parents at the grocery store, it doesn't mean that the culture ended. As one of our sayings we have, and Michelle reminds me often about this, which is great, is culture is caught more than taught. And I think you each understand that no matter what we do, how we act and how we are is more about culture being caught more than taught. Got your back, that's what we talk about, teachers making sure that if you meet somebody at a different place outside and they complain about somebody else, you support your team, you support the ministry, you support the vision, you remember what we're doing. Let's see, I'm looking at, Mark said, love the culture factor in your presence, something that can be caught more than taught. Thank you, Mark, totally agree. It's something that is so instrumental to what we do, and it's nice when a parent comes back and says, hey, saw one of your staff doing this, and it just, obviously it tells us, hey, it worked. Thanks a lot. Level of trust. I think that relies on leadership, and it can rely on a staff member as well. You know, if I say I'm going to do something and I fail to do it, my wife's business, they have a sign on the wall that I love, and it says, under promise, over perform. Boy, as a person who likes to be a people pleaser in some way myself, it's so easy to do the reverse. But if you under promise and over perform, if you do the things that you're able to, it is amazing how your community, the culture sets. So we talk about each other. Don't stand in class and talk about Christ's love and then walk out and then someone see you outside not performing that. So it's always really important. Communicate vertically, horizontally. We use the example of the cross. We first have to vertically communicate with God. We've got to let him know the things that we're not proud of in ourselves, our mistakes, our failures, and continue to thank him for his continuous love. And then we've got to share that horizontally each way to teachers, friends, families, everybody around us. So communicating, obviously, when you're with an administrator who's full-blood Italian and talks all the time, it's kind of, you must have that. That's another one of my prerequisites. You got to be able to talk a lot. So that's always good. Open door. You got to have an opportunity to have your staff have a place where they feel they can speak with you. And my door is open all the time. And when I mean speak, I mean when they're frustrated, let them come in and vent. They got to have that vent door. They've got to know that one-on-one, they can share their frustrations, their hurts, everything. Obviously, we talk about when we are all in public. We never question, we never confront our team. We are always together. We may not agree, but we will agree to disagree till we get one-on-one. We always say we leave our staff meetings, we leave our school as one voice, one voice. So it's very, very important. Synergy, it's just such a great thing about it that admin and staff are one. There's not a division. There's not a split. What's been exciting to me now is so often we hear in our schools that there's a split between church and school. Not at all. We are Redeemer Ministries, and yes, we do have a school and we do have a church, but we all are one. So that's going to continue. The key factor when all of this is happening, we win. And you got to believe it. I think that, as it says in here, God is able to make all grace, not some, abound in you. So in all things, not sometimes, and in all times, again, having all that you need, you will abound in every good work he gives you. And I think that's hard because there's no doubt that we maybe sometimes take a little doubt pills and we don't believe in who we are, don't believe we can get there. And we tend to begin to think, at least I know I've done that, and we talk as a staff that it's all on our shoulders and we forget who really makes it all go. And so there's that continued 1 Corinthians that we talk about constantly. Success, what a great thing. This is success is the peace of mind, which is a direct result, self-satisfaction, knowing that you made I'd almost like to say best effort, but we'll just say you made the effort to become the best of which you are capable. Here's one of the great things. I heard this comeback sauce at something else, and I just used it as part of what this picture was of Walt Disney. I loved it. Do what you do so well that they will want to see it again and bring their friends. If that can't be the mantra of what we do, if that's not a way you use preaching the gospel, if that's not the way you use the Great Commission, that you do it so well that somebody wants to go tell a friend and bring them back, That is what we do at Redeemer. We call it our comeback sauce. What can we do that tells somebody that, man, we got to go out and tell one of our friends, and we got to tell them you want your kid as part of this ministry. So that's been that mantra for us and everything. I was very honored at the age of 22, before going off and playing football, that I was confirmed. I was born and raised an Italian Catholic kid, and my wife's grandfather was the founding pastor of Redeemer in 1926. I was able to have an adult confirmation, and I think one of the most touching things for me was the pastor that was here at the time. I had said, hey, how come my wife has a Bible verse for her confirmation and I don't? Is that because she was a kid? And he said, do you want one? And I said, most definitely. And he gave me this verse, and it's one that I live by, but I think we all can. It gives me that continuous quiet strength to know that I'm doing the best I can. I'm working hard towards it, and I know that I can do all things through Christ, who gives me that strength, who centers me, who focuses me. So that's our kind of our mantra. And as I said, I've been so blessed that these dreams do come true, and that we're in a place where we continue to reach the ministry of God. I'd like to close on this with a quick word of prayer, and then be more than happy to take any questions. So if you'll bow your heads with me out there throughout our country. Dear Lord, thanks so much for the incredible gifts you give us while we are just in awe of you, Lord Jesus. And as we enter this season, or in the middle of this season of Lent, we can't help but stop and think of that amazing walk you are taking, that you took and continue to take towards that cross at Calvary. And Lord, I just thank you for the ministry of all of our Lutheran schools throughout our country, for the leadership, the people that are involved, who every morning get up to make a difference in a child's life. May you use each one of us to be an instrument of your word, of your love, of your grace. And may you take each one of us and have us look in a mirror and realize that we are a good thing, that you called each one of us to the jobs that we do. Just thank you for that, and ask your blessings upon each one of us as we continue to do your work in your kingdom. In your Son's name we pray. Amen. Thank you guys so much for everything. I hope that someday when you guys are down in the California area, I know if it's a little cold where you're at, it's only 80 here today, so we'd love to have you come out, love to have you come by Redeemer and stop by.
Well, thanks, Mike. Great job on your presentation. Learned a lot. We will leave the comment section open. If you have any questions that you would like to ask Mike, please feel free to type right now, and we'll give you an opportunity to think about some questions and ask him. But Mike, you did a great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
I see a few people typing.
I see that. Becky, thank you. You know, it's funny, I know a Becky Schmidt, and I don't know if it's the same one. We had a Becky Schmidt that was a student and a member here at Redeemer, moved out. So Becky, if you are, thank you. Thank you, Cindy. It's always fun. I love having the opportunity to just be excited about what we do, and it's so nice to have opportunities to talk with fellow Lutheran educators. It's neat. We don't get that opportunity enough, darn it, and I guess I'll pick on Terry and tell him he's got to figure out ways that we can all get together more often. It'd be neat to have one big, giant, I know we have the LEA, but one big one to get together. But thank you so much.
Well, Mike, I think that's it. So great job. Have a good day celebrating the fact that you were able to get through this. I know sometimes we get a little nervous about it, but I thought you did a great job. Thanks for all your leadership and with your school, and obviously within your district and also within Senate. Thank you, and blessings onto your school. And take a moment to celebrate the joys of this event for your school and all the presentations that you've done so far. I think this is your last one, but thank you for all of your efforts.
Thank you so very much, and yeah, we will take some time to celebrate, but then I got to ask them, now what? So thank you to everybody else. Have a blessed Easter, and we'll look forward to talking to you soon.
Okay. All right, thanks, Todd. right, blessings.